Hey, greetings there, everybody. It's GleeCon here again with, there goes the camera. Another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we read the last manga that we're going to read on the journey to playing World of Warcraft. We have nothing left except for a few chapters of Cycle of Hatred, and we'll keep alternating. Even once we start playing World of Warcraft, we're going to keep alternating these weird side things like the Dungeons and Dragons book and other things. Eventually, we will pass through this, and there will be lots of other types of side things, side lore that we'll get to. But on in our little manga, we read a little story of a gnome going to Karanos and making it his home. In our Dungeons and Dragons setting, we just looked at Durotar, and we're going to continue looking at Central Kalimdor. If you want to stay a while and listen, we'll explore Dustwallow Marsh, which capital is Theramore. So this, as we've been reading in Cycle of Hatred, is sort of the initial Alliance Kalimdor faction. So it's mostly human here, with night elves, dwarfs, high elves, gnomes, plus a smattering of ogres, orcs, tauren, trolls, and black dragonflight, and Forsaken. So there is a horde presence, a scattered horde presence throughout, as well as the black dragonflight, which is key. Lady Jaina Proudmoore is the leader here. Currently, she's just listed as the level 17, and Lady Onyxia. It does say look at that previous book for Jaina Proudmoore stats. I don't know if we'll get different stats for her. All right. This is an alliance land. I never really pieced that together. I always felt that this was more of a neutral land, but I guess it's technically alliance. Dustwallow is an alliance-controlled territory, though much of the land is not well suited for human colonization. Giant stone watchtowers maintain a steady vigil along the central road that leads through the center of Dustwallow into the Barrens. Although Jaina Proudmoore and Thrall were allies at the end of the Third War, the actions and eventual death of Jaina's father, Admiral Proudmoore, put a strain on that coalition. Now many of Admiral Proudmoore's loyal Theramore forces are openly hostile to the Horde, while Jaina tries her best to maintain a tenuous peace. As the only Alliance-controlled land in central Kalimdor, the Dustwallow is a dangerous region, since a number of Horde groups assault anyone outside Theramore's walls. A number of other faction forces threaten the Alliance as well, including the Stonemaul Ogres and the Black Dragonflight. People and culture. Inside the city of Theramore, most people are optimistic in spite of the loss of many friends and allies in the recent Horde attack. This is one of few places where all the Alliance races are represented, although humans are not surprisingly the most common. The overwhelming majority of the people settled here are fiercely loyal to Lady Proudmoore. Those who favor her father's approach to the war have left to reside elsewhere. Several groups of those loyal to Dalen Proudmoore have taken over abandoned towers and barracks nearby and show open contempt toward others. I suspect they would be just as aggressive toward the people of Theramore as they are toward the Horde if they had the numbers, and that's true. I mean, as far as adventuring, yeah, you fight humans. The Black Dragonflight dominates the southwest portion of Dustwallow and is led by a massive black dragon named Onyxia. Onyxia is one of Deathwing's daughters and the younger sister of Nefarian, the ruler of Blackrock Spire. Unlike most areas under Black Dragonflight dominance, the dragons and dragon spawn here are unified and organized, making them considerably more dangerous. Rumors persist that Nefarian and Onyxia work to gain complete control of the Black Dragonflight in Deathwing's absence. If this event occurs, Theramore will likely be one of their first targets. The people of Theramore are keenly aware of this threat, and Jaina probably has a few tricks up her sleeve for such an occasion. Geography. Dustwallow Marsh is exactly what it sounds like, a stinkin' marsh. Bogs, quagmires, and other fun stuff can be found here. The entire region is a low-lying transition between the Great Sea to the east and the dry sun-baked earth of the Barrens to the west and north. To the south of Dustwallow is Thousand Needles, but a small mountain range makes a direct journey from one to the other difficult. The area's vegetation consists of grass, reeds, and weeping willow trees. Yeah, I don't think you really transition from Dustwallow into Thousand Needles. I think this is kind of the end of the line. You come at Thousand Needles from another area. The humidity is high and the weather is muggy. Needless to say, I didn't enjoy my time in the swamp. Once one gets inside Theramore, things are much more tolerable. The island is solid and grassy, although I suspect this is because magic makes it more inhabitable. An adventurer passing through the land is likely to come across crocodiles, giant spiders, raptors, and bog beasts in the north. The black dragonflight controls the south, so most adventurers don't last long enough to appreciate the flora and fauna there. Sites and settlements. Dustwallow Marsh is home to many interesting things, and only about half of them want to suck your blood. There's Alcaz Island. Once a human settlement, Naga have taken over Alcaz Island and seem to be protecting something. Rumors abound, but so far no one has uncovered what the Naga may be hiding. Alcaz was a small human village with an underground tunnel system, and presumably the tunnel system might be where the Naga are hiding whatever it is they're guarding. Hydras also dwell off the coast. These may be native to the area, but I suspect the Naga have summoned them. Brackenwall Village is a pretty good-sized village. Brackenwall represents the only horde presence in Dustwallow. It is also the home of the Stonemaul ogres, who had maintained a village of their own but were driven out by agents of the Black Dragonflight. The Stonemaul ogres have remained allied with the horde since the Third War, when the half-ogre Rexar defeated their leader in combat and took command of the tribe. Dalen's loyalists harass Brackenwall, but Jaina keeps her own troops reined in. Most of the horde members here try to trade with Theramore peacefully, but there are a few that organize groups to attack travelers. I don't know why they never made ogre a playable race. It just makes sense. I mean, they're not, I guess they're big, but they're not that big. And sure, make an alliance thing to go with it, but yeah, get ogres in there. And maybe, I don't know, you could get high elves back for the alliance. There's plenty of things you could try to figure out. Stonemaul Ruins. Once the site of an ogre village, Firemane Dragonkin besieged Stonemaul and still roam the smoking ruins. The Firemanes help raise a small number of young black dragons in the ruins. Theramore Isle is a large city, one of the primary centers for the Alliance on Kalimdor. Theramore is a beautiful city of white stone bearing a strong resemblance to the once great Lordaeron. This is no surprise since the humans here are mostly Lordaeron natives, and Theramore was constructed through a cooperative effort between humans, dwarves, and elves, among others. I had the pleasure of spending several days here, and I used much of that time to catch up with Lady Jaina. The lass certainly has grown since I last saw her. I had mixed feelings talking to her. I fought alongside her father in the Second War, and I understood it all too well why he chose to continue the assault against the Horde. After hearing her perspective, however, I realized that he was too hasty in his assault, and I cannot blame her for withholding her support. I also realized something equally important. Jaina is still little more than a child, and she bears a tremendous weight on her shoulders. Most of the people of Theramore see her as their savior, since they know that if they had remained in Lordaeron, they would now likely belong to the Scourge or the Forsaken. A couple heavy events have served to transform Jaina from a girl to a woman, the fates of her father and her best friend from childhood. We avoided discussion of Arthas, but it was clear he was still on her mind. She probably blames herself for being unable to stop his descent into madness. That all being said, I think she can handle the strain of leadership. She's certainly risen to the difficulties of controlling an entire region. She probably needs more help than she's getting, though, and I hope she finds it soon. The damage done to Theramore's structures in Thrall's reluctant attack in response to Dalen's hostilities is repaired, and the city continues to expand. In fact, as more civilians arrive from the east, it seems likely that the Alliance will have to establish control over more of Dustwallow just to find more places for people to go. For people to live. The Wormbog. The Wormbog is perhaps the only known location where black dragons dwell only a stone's throw away from human and orc settlements. The massive drake known as Emberstrife runs the day-to-day activities of the dragonflight from his lair, but even he is merely a servant of Lady Onyxia, one of the most powerful dragons in the world. Onyxia secludes herself in her lair to take care of her immediate children, and unlike most black dragons, she seems obsessed with their safety. Powerful wards prevent anyone from entering the lair without a Drakefire amulet, a ritual object created with the help of General Drakasath, the leader of the dragon spawn in Blackrock Spire. Since the amulet requires some of Drakasath's blood, I wasn't able to get one on the spot to explore the lair, but in the future, I intend to work my way into there to investigate things further. History. Dustwallow was once at the center of the great continent of Kalimdor before the Sundering. When the Sundering struck the continent in half, much of the land around Dustwallow sank as the waters rushed in. ecosystem has since balanced itself into the wetlands that exist here now. During the Third War, in an unprecedented show of solidarity, the humans, night elves, and orcs of the world banded together to defeat Archimonde and the Burning Legion. The leader of the humans, Jaina Proudmoore, maintained the union with the orcs, who allowed her and her fellow humans to reside on Theramore Isle. All was well until the return of Jaina's father, Admiral Dalen Proudmoore, one of the principal commanders in the battles against the orcs in the Second War. Jaina's attempt to pacify her father failed, and knowing that war was inevitable, Thrall gave the order to attack. Admiral Proudmoore fell in battle, and Jaina remains at Theramore trying to prevent another war between her people and the Horde. Since Jaina refused to aid her father in the battle that led to his demise, many of the troops loyal to her father abandoned Theramore to form their own settlements. While Jaina and Thrall maintained a tenuous peace for about 2 years after her father's demise, the hostilities between the Alliance and the Horde have begun to affect Theramore. Trade between Theramore and Orgrimmar has all but ceased, and vigilantes from both factions strike against merchant caravans. Here's some adventure hooks. The Black Dragonflight poses the most imminent threat to both the Alliance and the Horde in Dustwallow, but the mysterious Naga and Hydras on Alkaz Island and the small groups of Alliance and Horde raiders also warrant investigation. Dragonfire. This quest says Theramore comes under attack by the Black Dragonflight, and when the smoke clears after the first day of the assault, Jaina Proudmoore is missing. The sheer number of dragons is overwhelming, and they are well coordinated under the leadership of Lady Onyxia, and perhaps her brother Nefarian as well. Without their beloved leader, the people of Theramore are disorganized and scared as more dragons descend on the city. The PCs must hold out for 3 days before Jaina returns with help from the Horde, or alternatively the other dragonflights. Yeah, these are almost like, these are nice hook ideas, but one thing, again, I mentioned this on one other episode, one thing that's lacking is there's no adventures. Like, I love the pre-made adventures, but this is very much a not hold your hand, just set you up with the campaign, give you a couple ideas, and you built it. Which is fine. Actually, I think it would be kind of neat if someone like really went back and did like a full Dungeons and Dragons quest by quest, zone by zone, and just saw how that went. It'd be kind of neat. Something my younger self would have loved doing, but now there's too much other cool things in my life to spend time doing something like that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. This episode's in the pipe 5x5, and I can't wait to see you all in the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.